All right, everybody, welcome to the preview episode for Michigan at Penn State. I am making some progress where I'm actually getting this preview episode out on a Friday instead of a Saturday. But as you'll notice, it's not exactly a video episode because I'm actually feeling like crap. I look like crap, and I was super close to not even putting together anything for this preview episode. But with it being Michigan's biggest game of the season this far, I just couldn't pass up. I had to at least give some of my thoughts and some of my perspectives for this specific game. So, not to make things any longer than they need to be, number 3 Michigan is 4.5-point favorites heading to Penn State, ranked number 10. And the over-under is 44.5. The kickoff is at noon on Saturday and will be airing on Fox. So finally, Michigan will be facing off against what everybody views as a credible opponent. This is a one-loss Penn State team who has only lost on the road at Ohio State. And with all the other things going on in the college football world around Michigan, this is a highly anticipated game. I'm excited about it. I feel good about it. I feel good about how the team is preparing for it. I think that they're going to be mentally prepared. I think they're mad about everything going on, and I think that is going to be a motivating factor. So, wanting to share some of my thoughts, and basically in this one, it's going to be some of the key components that Michigan is going to need to accomplish to have their best chance at winning and defeating Penn State. I'm really excited kind of about the last one because I think it's a unique observation that I don't know if anybody's really talked about up until this point. But some important things. Aller, the quarterback. The Michigan defense, if they can keep Aller under 50% completion for the game, then the chances of Michigan winning will go drastically up. Another factor that for the Michigan defense is if they can keep Penn State under 300 total yards. Through the games that they played, their loss to OSU and the other games that they've had that have been somewhat close, I say somewhat close because they're closer than most, have been under 300 yards or not very much above 300 yards. So the Michigan defense cannot let Penn State run all up and down the field. Obviously, I mean, that's part of the competition factor. But they have a lot riding on their rushing offense. And so if Michigan can specifically hold that under 100 yards, I would almost say that might be a guaranteed win at that point. Obviously, the lower that they can keep the rushing yards for Penn State, the better. But if they can keep it under 100 yards, I would maybe put that as a lock that the Michigan Wolverines should be able to win then. Now, on third down conversions, Penn State usually does pretty well with this, but in their loss and their worst performances of the season, if they can be held under 39% for third down conversions, that's when they are most susceptible to losses. Now, on the other side, if Michigan is able to convert 39% or more on third down conversions, then they're going to be looking pretty good on offense to be able to score and stay ahead of Penn State. Because the opponents that the Penn State defense has allowed to have third down conversions that high are the ones that have been able to put them in the tightest competitions. Same goes for total yards gained. If Michigan is able to go and break 300 total yards, that's going to set them up for the most success. I think the one that might be the most in question is going to be rushing yards, because the rushing defense for Penn State has been very good. And honestly, the rushing offense for Michigan has been very questionable. So if Michigan is able to break 100 yards rushing which I think is very feasible, then that is going to help set them up for success. Another thing, too, is kind of on the side of time of possession. And the teams that have competed the best with Penn State have been running 65 or more offensive plays during their games. So that will be something that Michigan will be looking for. Obviously, with the way that they play football, that is set up very well for them because they do a lot of longer plays. They take off a lot of time. They're usually in that 65 range, even though that they do run a slower pace of football game. So that will be interesting to see what the final count is for offensive plays. Honestly, the biggest question for Michigan in this game has actually been their biggest strength for the past 2 seasons, and that's their offensive line. As we've seen, JJ has been susceptible to QB hurries and even some sacks in recent games. And against a defense like Penn State, that is worrisome because they are going to bring the heat and often. And I know that he has the ability to move, but sometimes that is actually not the best thing for JJ to do because the more he moves, the more susceptible he is to get hit. And sometimes he's definitely gotten better with it throughout the season. When he moves a lot, his passing, he doesn't always make the smartest decisions with passing. Most of the time he does, but in a tougher situation on the road against a defense like Penn State, he might be more susceptible to that. Now, the other big thing about the offensive line that is a big question is blocking for the running backs. We have not seen a lot going on with the running game for Michigan this season, and honestly, I wasn't too concerned about it for the most part because I thought it was just going to eventually develop. But unless Michigan has really deliberately been avoiding the run and trying to break things open like they did last season, especially like the Penn State game last year and the Ohio State game last year, where they had huge runs for huge gains, then there might be area for concern because you have not seen very much success. Hopefully this is the game where they're able to turn that around, though. So, biggest question mark for Michigan is how the offensive line will be able to perform against the Penn State defense. I think they will do fine. I think they will do well. But that is the pivoting point for which way this game could go, in my opinion. Now, before I give my score prediction, I want to kind of give my last 2 cents here that I thought was very interesting. And that is specifically about the mark of 30 points. What's so important about 30 points? Well, I think it's fair to say that if Michigan scores more than 30 points, that they're going to win the game. But then also, of course, the reverse needs to be said about Penn State. If they're held under 30 points, then Michigan will most likely win the game. However, why does that number of 30 points make such a big difference? The last 3 games that Michigan has allowed teams to score over 30 points. This is the unique stat here. The last 3 times Michigan has allowed the other team to score over 30 points have all been losses. And those games were Michigan's 3 losses over the past 2 seasons. Last year against TCU, they scored 51, Michigan scored 45. In 2021, Georgia scored 34 while Michigan scored 11. 2021, Michigan State scored 37 while Michigan scored 33. Things do not bode well for Michigan with this stout defense they have if they allow a team to score 30 or more points. I think that will hold true for this Saturday. If they can keep Penn State under 30 points, I think it's going to be a win. So final score prediction then. I have a final score for Michigan 34, Penn State 20. I would love to see Michigan absolutely dominate and shut some people up on them questioning how good Michigan is, especially with the whole sign gate thing and everything, and just pound Penn State and put up a lot of points. But I think a more realistic approach is the final score of 34-20. I'm really looking forward to the game. I know that I'm just going to be chilling on my couch watching it because I'm still going to be trying to recover from how I've been feeling this week, but I will still be pumping things out, even if they are short episodes for the previews and the recaps. I hope you all do get to enjoy the game and that we get to see another great Michigan performance. I will catch you on the flip side, but until then, as always, go blue.